venerable members of Mahasangha, dear friends in Dhamma. It is July 27 evening, Wednesday. Now time is 7 p.m. and we are going to begin this evening 2 hours program with meditation, puja, and also Dhamma talk. It's a privilege to me to welcome Most Venerable Bhante Yogavachara Rahula to our center. He visited this monastery several times last 15 years, and even before that he visited Ottawa for programs such as meditation, Dhamma talks, and we are very happy to have him here in each year before pandemic, because when he visited this place, he delivered the Dhamma for many people from this place and also with other organizations. So with him, today's program is being conducted. I just want to give an introduction to today's program and also tell you how you could participate in the most important ways. I'm Bhante J, and behind me the other resident monk Bhante Sunita, and also we have Bhante Suman Ratana to welcome Bhante Yogavachara Rahula to this program. So on behalf of the committee of Hilda Javardhana Ramya and also those devotees who participate here at the temple and also through Zoom and live stream and YouTube, I just want to welcome Bhante Rahula for this program. Bhante Rahula is a well-known, very senior, very respected monk in the Sangha order from Sri Lanka and elsewhere because of his very genuine Theravada teaching and practices. When he was at the Bhavana Monastery, I met him for the first time in 2009. I attended one of his retreat for 10 days, and that's the moment I came to know him in person. From that retreat, I always remembered him with my meditation because he taught us so many good things to make our training straightforward and more meaningful. I do not want to give a big introduction to Bhante Rahula because everybody who participated in this program knows about Bhante Rahula. He was able to observe a vast retreat here in 2013, 9 years ago, and delivered Dhamma with very nice Dhamma topics. And he, of course, conducted yoga classes for our devotees at this temple. After the Corona pandemic, this is the first time he visited Ottawa with the invitation of OBS, and we are very happy that we could provide him accommodation here. And he's a very loving, very kind, but very profound meditator on Samatha and Vipassana, so that we invited him to conduct today's program, the meditation session and the Dhamma talk and the Q&A session. So he accepted our invitation with so much happiness, because he always liked to share the Dhamma with us and with everybody. Today's program usually is in Sinhala, but we are flexible to turn it to English if this kind of bhikkhus are available, so that we are having this program only for today, for this week, and next week, Wednesday program would be in Sinhala. So Bhante Rahula, when he teaches, he speaks to our mind, he speaks to our heart with practical examples. So he would explain to you what Dhamma we need to reflect on for our benefit on meditation and on daily basis. So I'm not going to speak about it, but I just want to mention that some of the statements he made in his books and also in Dhamma talks are very important for us. One beautiful statement I always remember is something like this: a moment of mindfulness keeps you away from the dukkha. So that was one of his talk. I found it, and I still keep in mind. And when he teaches yoga and meditation on mindfulness, they are very applicable for us. So that there would be many good things he would add today in today's Dhamma sermon. So we are waiting for that. So without further ado, so I just want to uh, begin this session with five precepts and short version of Buddha Puja. So then Bante Rahula will deliver the Dhamma first, and then the meditation will be conducted accordingly. So welcome Bante for our program, and welcome all of you. If you have any questions, Bante will tell you what time you can ask questions through Zoom, and those who join with us through live stream and also YouTube, they cannot have ask questions, and we have no facility to see the chatting box in YouTube just to tell Bante about this program. So only platform you can ask question is Zoom, and the computer is away from us, and we cannot see those questions you write on chatting box. So I encourage you to raise your hand and ask the questions if you have any during the Q&A session. So now we are moving to observing five precepts and doing the puja. And when we do online program, we recite Panchasila together. So let's say Namo Tassa to begin with. So monks are chanting together with you today. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Panatipata vekamani sikkhapadam samadhiyami. Adinādana vekamani sikkhapadam samadhiyami. Kāmesu miccācara veramani sikkhapadam samadhiyami. Musāvāda Veramani Sikkhapadam Samadhiyami Suramira Majjapama Dattana Veramani Sikkhapadam Samadhiyami. Let's offer the prepared Buddha Puja to the Buddha by reciting some gathas. Monks are leading the chanting and you can join with us. May these blessings be with Venerable Rahula for his good health and long life. And you also, by the power of these merits, may we be able to meditate well and listen to the Dhamma meaningfully. With this wholesome thought in mind, let's pay our due respect to the Buddha by offering Vilampasa Buddha Puja. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Iti viso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho vijjācana sampanno sugato lokavido anuttaro purisa dhammasārati sattā deva manussānaṁ Buddho Bhagavati Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dittiko Akaliko Ehi Parsiko Panaiko Pachatang Veditabo Vinyomiti Supatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Ujjapatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Nyāyapatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Sāmīci patipanno bhagavato sāvaka sangho yadidam cattari purisa yugani atta purisa puggala esa bhagavato sāvaka sangho Ahuneyo, Ahuneyo, Takineyo, Anjali Karaniyo, Anuttara Punya Ketan Lokasati, Vandami Cetiyang Sabbang Sabbakani Supatititang Sari Tatu Mahaputing Buddharupang Sakalang Sada Ganesara Dittena Dipena Tamatang Sina Tilokadipang Sambuddhang Pujayami Tathāgatang Ganda Sambarayuttena Rupena Sugandhina Pujani Pujaniyang Kang Puja Pajan Uttamang Adivase Tuno Bhante Paniyan Upanamitam Anukampa උපාදාය පටිගන්නාතු උත්තම ආදිවාසේතු නොබන්තේ කිලාන පච්චයං හිමං අනුකම්පං උපාදාය පටිගන්නාතු උත්තම ඉමිනා පුඤ්ඤ කම්මේන මාමේ බාල සංඝමෝ සතං සම්බ්‍රමෝ යාව නිපාතය සාදු සාදු On behalf of Venerable monks and devotees who participate in this program, I now would like to invite Most Venerable Bhante Yogavachara Rahula. Bhante, please accept our invitation and deliver the Dhamma for us. Sadhu.
So, dear Sangha brothers and other Dhamma devotees, I'm happy to be able to come up to Ottawa this week. I'm initially invited by the Ottawa Buddhist Society. I gave some Zoom programs a few nights ago through their web Zoom program, and then I'm staying here at the Villajayawardena Temple under the kind invitation of Bhante Jivananda, and he mentioned that they had this Zoom program on Wednesday night. It wasn't scheduled, but he asked me if I might take this opportunity to share some Dhamma with you on in English. I understand normally on Wednesday evenings the program is done in Sinhala, but I'm sure all of you probably also understand English. So, so this is normally called the Dhamma talk. So it's good to understand then what is the Dhamma. Now, for Buddhists, the Dhamma means usually the teachings of the Buddha. Then people will ask, then what did the Buddha teach? And they'll say, the Dhamma. Then, then there's a conundrum. Then which came first, the Dhamma or the Buddha? The chicken or the egg? So the Buddha always said that he only rediscovered the ancient path, or the Dhamma that had been hidden for long periods of time. He simply rediscovered it. And so, but then again, the question comes, well, what is the Dhamma? And what are the teachings of the Buddha? But basically, the Buddha and the Dhamma means, in a larger general sense, the laws of nature. And the Buddha was primarily interested in the nature of suffering and the nature of happiness. Other religions immediately talk about realizing God or realizing cosmic consciousness and merging your mind into the infinite nibbana or cosmic consciousness or whatever they might believe. But the Buddha took a different approach. He talked about suffering. So, and he mentioned suffering 4 times in the Four Noble Truths. That suffering exists, and the cause of suffering, and how can this, and the fact that suffering can be brought to an end, then how do you actually bring it to an end? So those four truths are the outline of the Buddha's approach to teaching the Dhamma. That suffering exists, the cause of suffering, the cessation of suffering, path, leading to the cessation of suffering. So we're going to explore some of these, the Buddha's approach to the Dhamma and suffering and the ending of suffering. And basically, the main teaching of the Buddha, or the clearest definition of the Buddha's definition of suffering, was that the sickness, old age, and death are suffering, and not getting what you want and getting what you don't want is suffering. Then, in short, the five aggregates of clinging are suffering. But the laws of nature, so the Buddha was teaching that suffering and happiness are depending on living according to the laws of nature. And the laws of nature, basically the primary one is the law of karma. And this is illustrated in the first two verses of the Dhammapada, that all actions are led by the mind. Mind is their master, mind is their maker. If one acts or speaks with an impure mind, then suffering will follow, as the cart wheel follows the foot of the ox. And in the same way, if one acts or speaks with an impure mind, then, or with a pure mind, then happiness will follow, as your shadow follows you around. So in these two verses, the Buddha has illustrated or explained how suffering arises from our mind, from an impure mind, and happiness all arises from a pure mind. And this is based on the law of karma. And the law of karma is like the law of gravity. So if the law of gravity, if you throw something up, what happens? It comes down, sometimes with a big thud, right? So if you throw something out of your mouth that goes out into the world and goes through the bodies and minds of other beings, causes a reaction that then comes back to you in Newton's law. I think you've all taken mathematics, maybe you understood Sir Isaac Newton, the physicist. His famous statement was, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So that also sort of describes this law of karma, an equal or opposite reaction as it comes back to us. So if we put out greed and hatred and anger and negative thoughts, then that same kind of vibrations will come back to us to affect us in some ways. So that's even with speech. And if we act with the body, like, punch somebody in the nose, or, give some body language, stick out your tongue at them, or worse, kill and steal, do things with the body, then that also goes out in the world and comes back to us. And even our thoughts are like radio waves that go out. So just thinking negative thoughts like, I hate that person, I'm gonna get even, and that goes out and can also go through that person's mind on an unconscious level, cause some reaction that comes and then comes back to us. So that is basically those actions of body, speech, and mind. Those are which produce most of the problems and pain and suffering in our life. It's due to the results of our habits and the way that we've learned to speak, act, and think since we were born, or even having brought a lot of those character traits with us, even from a previous life. And then another important statement of the Buddha, one I like very much, is that he said, the world, the arising of the world, the ceasing of the world, and the path leading to the ceasing of the world is right here within this 5 or 6 foot long body with its nervous system, memory, and consciousness. So what's that saying is that basically, our experience of the world is largely created within our mind. And hopefully this will become more clear as we go on. But, and so, the Buddha was really like a scientist. He wanted to really, his hypothesis was to find out the ultimate deepest levels and causes of suffering and how one can remove them and to attain a higher level of happiness or complete freedom. So he was like a scientist. And he took this idea of Dhamma as a kind of a scientific experiment. And he used his own body as a laboratory. And he used his mind, of concentrated mind, as the microscope. And because before the Buddha went on search for his enlightenment, he followed other teachers. He went around asking other reputed meditation masters, rishis, and so on, about what is the truth, what truth have they discovered, what is their ultimate Dhamma. And all they could teach him was how to get into formless jhanas, like how to concentrate and get your mind into a state of infinite consciousness or infinite space or even nothingness, and very exalted sort of concentrated states, almost like a hypnotic state. And when he came out of that state, he realized that he hadn't fundamentally changed very much. And so he thought, these kind of teaching, this kind of meditation, I don't think, really leads to, it's not what I'm looking for. He was looking for something more substantial, something that didn't just change, you go into and enjoy for several hours or even a day and then come out and then come back to becoming more or less normal. That wasn't his idea of reaching a stable state of happiness and liberation. So that's where he went off on his own. He said, look, they're human beings. I'm a human being. Why should I go around listening to others? And so he sat down and, as I already mentioned, he used his body as a laboratory, the mind as a microscope, and then he began his practice of meditation. And as he did that, and I'll be talking about the practice of meditation he followed was he explained later, was the gradual levels of the 4 foundations of mindfulness. But as he looked within himself and calmed his mind, then he didn't just get into a hypnotic state and a state of bliss and just sort of hang out and go wowie wooey and look at that's God and I'm that and I'm, no, he didn't do that. I mean, he got into those states, but he didn't get stuck there. And then he used that deep concentration to start seeing the way his mind operated. And he tuned into the moment-to-moment workings of his mind, and especially at the senses, how sensory vibrations were coming through the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and triggering off memories and thoughts, liking and disliking. And you could see how over time, when he was younger, through even for many previous lifetimes, how the mind had gotten entangled in this web and of interaction and action and interaction, reaction with the world. And this comes to another nice little stanza that to explain, again, the Buddha's approach, called the inner and the outer tangle. So there was a deva, it seems, that came to the Buddha one time, and he said, there's this inner tangle. People talk about the inner tangle and the outer tangle. This world is entangled in a tangle. So I asked Master Gotama, who succeeds in disentangling this tangle? And then the Buddha's reply was, well, a person is very diligent and standing on a firm foundation of morality or sila, and then developing his mental powers of mindfulness and concentration and wisdom, they succeed in disentangling this tangle. And that was the Buddhist reply. And so that's this inner tangle and the outer tangle. That is what we want to try to explore more, because that's exactly the practice of Dhamma, the practice of the Noble Eightfold Path, Sila, Samadhi, and Panya are all directed at trying to disentangle this tangle, the inner tangle and the outer tangle. So what is the outer tangle? Now, I'm sure you can guess. It's all the objects of the external world, like the myriad, millions and millions of different things you can see with the eye, hear with the ears, smell with the nose, taste with the tongue, feel on the body. And then so that's the outer tangle, are those 5 physical senses. But it's the mind, our consciousness, that's got tangled up into them and forming its love and hate relationships and its automatic reactions to those objects based on desire and aversion, and on chasing pleasurable feeling and trying to get away from painful feeling. And this is what the Buddha was observing in the meditation. After having focused the mind and got the mind more or less concentrated and free from its wandering thoughts and sleepiness, he was able to then, like turning up the power of a microscope, he could see every time he heard something, he could see how his mind was, remembering it. And I like this sound, or I don't like that sound, or things that he saw. He saw that with each of the sense objects, the mind is divided up the world into these things I like and these things I don't like. And then there's a whole bunch of other things that it has a neutral reaction to. But basically it was this, Buddha saw how the things that bring us pleasure, those are the things we get attached to. Then we have desires to want to recreate them and to keep on getting more and more pleasurable feeling. And the things that bring us unpleasant feeling or pain, those objects, the mind doesn't want to come in the future. So it plans and schemes how it can prevent these unpleasant objects from coming into contact with it. And almost the whole life is spent in this pursuit of chasing pleasurable feelings, or trying to recreate them, and having fear and worry about unpleasant sensations coming to us. So the mind has gotten entangled in all of our actions of our life. From the moment you get up in the morning, and the moment you go to sleep at night, if you really check up, almost, all the things that you do are based on that. Maybe you have a bad taste in your mouth, so it has an unpleasant feeling. You want to go clean your teeth when you first get up in the morning. Or maybe there's a painful feeling of your full bladder, so you want to go and relieve that. I mean, that's not anything bad, but still it's based on an unpleasant sensation. And you want to go and get rid of that, relieve that unpleasant sensation, because you want to have a happy sensation, a pleasant sensation, or at least a neutral sensation. And then the whole day is about, again, you want to go have, some nice food to eat, or something to drink, or listen to music, or avoiding other things. So this is how the mind has gotten gradually entangled. And then it starts developing strong desires to have these objects again, because they're impermanent. And the more objects that you want, or the more objects that bring you pain, then you want more pleasant objects in order to soothe the pain that you're experiencing in life. And how did all this happen? So that's a predicament, but again, how did it happen? So it comes back to the time we were born, or even the time you were in the womb, or see, even going back to the moment of conception. Now, the Buddhist theory about the nature of our life is that this consciousness has come from a previous existence. And when the mother and father produce the first cell organism, that consciousness comes and sort of is the spark of life force that then causes that embryo to start developing. And with each cell division, that consciousness goes into each of the succeeding cells. So in the space of 9 months, you will go from a one-cell organism to a multi-billion or trillion-cell organism in the space of 9 months. I mean, that's a lot going on there. Developing this marvelous human body, which, according to most people's idea, the most highly developed living organism that we know so far. So that happened in just 9 months. And that was occurring in the present moment, basically, with this powerful, all this energy, and consciousness went into each cell. So basically, every cell of the body has a kind of an awareness or a consciousness. And they're all connected in what I like to call the inner internet. Because we all know that. Any doctor can tell you that, that the cells in your toe can communicate with your brain. And then, if you get a little cut on your toe, the brain knows about it, and then the brain tells some other things to, hey, go help them out, create some white blood cells and go clot that blood or whatever. Or if you're getting a sickness, the immune system. So that's called natural intelligence. And that was So this body has natural intelligence because they were all connected. And they had that open communication because it was occurring in the present moment. And basically, the consciousness and the body were, you could say, fused together at that point. But then what happens at birth? Baby comes out, the doctor cuts the cord. Now the baby becomes separate from the mother. And then they give the baby a name. Little Mohan, little, Susie. And they keep calling it by its name, and after some time, the baby starts to look. But when the baby's first born, the baby still has its mind is still in the present moment. And it still doesn't have a nucleus of an I with it. Its mind is what they call kind of oceanic, or is very expanded. It doesn't have any center. But because you give it a name and all the relatives come and pick it up and start going, tickling it and giving it all this attention, little by little, it starts to think that, oh, there's something in here. It's like, you start to identify that, that name is now addressing this. And so little by little, what used to be a very expanded present moment awareness without the sense of I, me, or mine in it, gradually gets coalesced or condenses or contracts into a little nuclei. And that is the birth of the ego, the sense of I. And then the grandmother comes by with the first sweet, Ita. And the baby gets the first chocolate. And it gets a pleasant sensation. That creates a pleasant feeling in the baby, pleasant sensation. And then maybe the grandfather holds the baby too tightly and gives it a painful feeling, and it starts to, not like that. And it happens a few times over again, and the baby starts to identify that particular face. Every time that face comes, a pleasant feeling comes to it. And every time another face comes, a painful feeling comes to it, or maybe just a neutral feeling comes to it. And then as that happens over and over again, the baby starts to hope, I wish that face will come again, because it's expecting now that face will deliver a pleasant feeling. And it starts to think, I hope that face doesn't come again, because it's expecting that particular image or object to bring in a painful feeling. And that is the birth of the past and future. People think the past and future are some fixed things in time. No, it's within our consciousness, the past and future. Because the original vibration of our consciousness is basically the present moment awareness. But we've lost that. And so over about the period of 6 months, the baby starts looking more and more outside of itself. As it starts to learn language and it starts to crawl about and starts to see so many things, and he learns language, and it learns, oh, that's a kitty, that's a doggy, that's a brother, a sister, and all these different objects now are it's relating to in terms of itself, and what do they mean to it, whether they give it a pleasant feeling or a painful feeling. Maybe the cat comes by and the baby tries to grab the cat's tail and the baby the cat scratches the baby, and it has a painful feeling. Now it has a fear of the cat. Right? So this is how the mind starts getting entangled with the tangle. The inner tangle of the mind, the memory of the mind starts to get tangled up with the outer world and starts to then categorize everything it experiences as something it likes or something it dislikes. And then it loses that connection to the present moment awareness. It's sort of intrinsic vibration of completeness and well-being. And it also loses the natural intelligence. As I mentioned, this body was, for 9 months, it went from a one-cell organism, you can't even see it, right? Invisible, to a 7, 8, 9 pound human baby, billions of cells, trillion. And with all these wonderful interacting systems in it, the respiration and circulation and metabolism, the immune system. That's all that natural intelligence was created by nature. But then we gradually lose that sensitivity because those cells of the body were all connected in the internet and they were communicating. But now they start to lose that because the young baby then starts to focus outwardly. As he crawls around, you see it, he crawls over there, wants to grab a hold of this, and crawl over there and grab a hold of that. And these desires start to develop, and he starts looking further and further outside of himself. In the beginning, it might just be in a day. Then he started to think about tomorrow, then next week, then next month, then next year, 50 years down the line. And the more he thinks about the future, the further he gets away from the truth, his connection to the present moment, and the wisdom that brings. So this is very important for understanding the mind. And this is what the Buddha directly perceived. This is what he understood about the inner and the outer Tangle. And we've allowed it to happen simply because, no one has really told us anything different. Especially as we grow older, we form these very strong desires and attachments. And then, because we're disconnected from the body, that means the body is here, but our mind is thinking about tomorrow or the next hour. What can I watch on TV at 3 o'clock? Or where am I going to eat tonight? Who am I going to see tomorrow? And so it loses that attention to the body, that centeredness in the body that it had for 9 months and even afterwards for a while. And it loses that sensitivity. And it starts then to do things that are harmful. Because it's no longer sensitive to the body's deeper feelings. And it gets attached to these superficial, these external objects like food or I usually give the example of like you start habits, like a young teenager, maybe first time you started smoking, if you did. I mention this because from personal experience, right? So you start smoking, and it's kind of innocently, right? Or peer pressure, or whatever you want to, be a part of the gang. So innocently, we start picking up bad habits. Whether it's bad habits of speech, bad habits of consuming things, and so on. And then after a while, the body starts trying to tell you things, but you're not listening. Because your desires or aversions or habits now are overriding that natural common sense. So let's say you start to light up a cigarette, and the body unconsciously is trying to tell you, wait, don't do that, don't do that. The mind says, shut up. Right? So because of our strong attachments, and now we have to rely on the external world for our happiness, because we've been disconnected from the natural happiness of being in the present moment. You see, all problems are problems of the past and future. Try to think of any problem you have and see if it isn't in some way connected to the past or future. I'll give you 10 seconds. Think quickly. Probably have difficulty coming up with something. So, when the mind is resting in the present moment, there's nothing to judge. There's nothing to compare. There's nothing to like or dislike, because all dislikes or dislikes are dependent on remembering what the object gave you in the past and projecting that into the future with either more desire or more fear. And the mind is constantly going between the past and the future. It is bypassing the present moment. The present moment is in the middle, but the mind is constantly going between the past and the future. Like a pendulum of a clock, right? Tick, tock, tick, tock. As long as the clock is ticking, time keeps moving, right? Time is created through the ticking clock. What happens if the clock stops ticking and the pendulum stops in the middle? Then time stops. The clock. So the same way with our mind. When the mind stops moving between the past and the future and comes to rest in the present moment, then that is the happiness, because that's its natural vibration. That's the harmony with the natural world vibration, or at least of the present moment. And so really, meditation, the practice of meditation, is learning how to bring the mind back to the present moment. And actually, it's interesting. The word meditation is an English word, of course. It's a translation for, the Pali Sanskrit words like bhavana and so on. But it's MEDI, right? So what's the meaning of MEDI? It's a prefix. Have any idea? What other words start with MEDI? Medicine? Media? Or a mediator? A medium? What do all these words have in common? They signify something that's in the middle between two opposites, right? So medicine is something that is in between sickness and health, a bridge between sickness and health. A mediator sits between two arguing groups of people to resolve their differences. The media also sits between truth and falsehoods, And so what does meditation sit in the middle of? The past and future. Or the opposites, pleasure and pain, and self and others. So these three dualities, past and the future, pleasure and pain, me and the other, these are the opposites that keep on, banging into each other and creating friction and suffering. So meditation is about keeping the mind in the middle. And that's why we use the practice of the meditation. and using the body for that. This body, what I call the breathing body, is really the only thing we have. It's the natural connection to the present moment. Because this body is always just here. Whether you're sitting, standing, walking, moving around, laying down, breathing in, breathing out. If you can keep your mind just remembering that, without letting it think about any thoughts of the past or future connected with what you see, hear, taste, smell, touch, or think, your mind would come to rest in the present moment and regain that equilibrium and that harmony, or that feeling of sort of oneness. But at least it would, and that's a contentment. That is what the Buddha defined as happiness. So that's why the Buddha developed the system of the four foundations of mindfulness is really the practice, the main practice of meditation that the Buddha developed on how to bring our mind back to the middle. And only somebody like the Buddha could have discovered that. But he discovered that through his own practice of meditation and developing his powers of mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. And of course, the other aspects of the Noble Eightfold Path, which hopefully I'll have time to mention at the end. So, how do we disentangle the tangle? As that verse went at the beginning, when a person is standing on the ground of sila, and the practice of sila actually is also a form of meditation, that it's disentangling the mind from those objects. And you recited the 5 precepts, at the beginning of this program. So the 5 precepts are connected with the outer world. That means the sense desire and aversion, the restlessness and the worry, and the doubts. All these are, but especially the sense desire, aversion, and restlessness are connected with the external world, and remembering the things that we did that we shouldn't have, and worrying about them or having desires and aversion. So, and especially the things that bring it suffering. So the 5 precepts, coming back to the first 2 verses of the Dhammapada, if one acts or speaks with an impure mind, then suffering follows. And so living against the precepts is like living out of harmony with the laws of nature. So that statement was the statement of the harmony of the law of nature. If you act or speak and think with a pure mind that's free from greed, hatred, and delusion, then it's conforming with the laws of nature, the harmony of nature. And if you do the opposites, then you're living out of harmony with that law of nature, about like say the law of gravity. So the 5 precepts is the starting point for disentangling that tangle. So you try to reduce the amount of sensual desires that you have. and especially the ones that cause you to do unskillful actions. In order to satisfy one's craving and desires, one would kill, steal, lie, cheat, rape, pillage, and plunder in order to get the object that it wants. It will do the same things to get away from the objects that it doesn't like as well. And we can see that this is the truth if you just look around in the world, or even within yourself, perhaps going back some years, but certainly in the world around us every day. So that's the first stage, the practicing sila, helps to initiate this disentangling the mind from those objects that bring us the heaviest type of suffering, such as the wrong speech and lying and stealing and killing and harming and abusing others. That will help to minimize our guilt, worry, remorse, and fear. And so the mind becomes a little bit more peaceful. So that practice of sila is the first level of disentangling the tangle, disentangling the mind, weakening those bonds of strong sensual craving, especially the ones that bring us suffering. But then the samadhi, the concentration, then works on reducing the thoughts about those objects. Even though you might not break the precepts, you might still have desires to do some of those things. So there's always a danger that if you lost your mindfulness, you could slip up and break the precept and then incur, the results of that. But the practice of the meditation helps to, calm down even those thoughts of desire and aversion by, developing deeper levels of concentration. But anyway, I want to come back to the practice of meditation, because that's where that then plays its important part, is that the four foundations of mindfulness are a gradual practice. And we want to return, you could say, to the natural vibration of present moment awareness. But that's the deepest level of awareness, deepest level that's kind of buried down deep in the nervous system. And so we have to kind of retrace the steps on how to gradually get back to that. And that's basically what the four foundations of mindfulness are doing. So the breathing, mindfulness of breathing, acts as the bridge from the external world to the inner world, or the world beneath the skin. Because you pull air from the outside world and it first strikes your nostrils, or it goes into the lungs, and the first thing you feel is the rib cage expanding against the clothing on your skin, and that indicates that you're breathing in. That's how we know we're breathing in. We feel the sensations, and so that touches the body first, and then you can go in and feel those subtler inner sensations. So by focusing on the mindfulness of breathing is a way to bring the mind from the external world to find at least the outer body. So you find the air touching the tip of the nostrils. That's the outer body. Or you feel the clothing rubbing against the skin of the stomach, rib cage, and chest as it expands or contracts. That's the outer body. But before, the mind wasn't even on the outer body. It was out there, looking at that person's body, that car, that house, that millions of objects outside of yourself, wanting to go there, do that, consume them, right? So you're not in your body hardly at all until you stub your toe, or or cut your finger, or worse. Almost all accidents are due to not being grounded in the body. That means not having mindfulness. So the first stage is using the breathing to get at least find the outer body. And then once you've done that, you go under the skin and start feeling the four elements, because that was the Buddha's instruction. After using the breath to get concentrated, centered in the body, then you start feeling the sensations and the four postures. Now I'm sitting, now I'm standing, now I'm breathing at any moment, to know what the body is doing. And you know it by feeling the sensations of it. You feel the feet pressing the floor. Oh, I must be standing. You feel the buttocks pressing the seat. Oh, I must be sitting. When you feel the hands touching like this. Oh, I must be sitting. So it's the sensations that are even telling us what positions the body are in. And those sensations are, under the skin primarily. Those vibrations going to the nervous system. So you use that mindfulness of the body to get more grounded in the body. And once you become grounded and centered in the body, what I call feeling the breathing body, then that's where the sensations are occurring. Then, so that first stage is getting grounded and centered in the body, kind of detached from it, just seeing, okay, the body's sitting, breathing, okay. And then you start feeling the sensation. Oh, a little pain here, itch, unpleasant sensation on this arm, unpleasant sensation on the neck, some itch on the leg, different sort of sensations. Or you hear a sound and you get disturbed by a sound, or start to think about pleasant, memories. And so you have a direct row seat now to this pleasant and painful feelings that are arising. And those feelings are what trigger off our mental states. So this is the important connection on how we gradually train the mind to go deeper and deeper back to the source of our mind and consciousness. So we use the breathing to get to the body. Then the body is sort of the front row seat, because that's where the nervous system is. And the whole world is coming through the senses connected to this body. And that's where the feelings are arising. And when you're detached from the feelings, first you have to have some detachment from the body, and that helps you to endure the painful feelings, and you're able to just recognize, okay, that's a painful feeling, it's not so bad. You relax around it, you watch how it's kind of just lasts some seconds or longer, changes, disappears. So you start to see impermanence also. And this is the second law of nature, about impermanence, which is a cornerstone teaching of the Buddha too. Everything is constantly changing. So we use the breathing to reach the body. We use the body to reach feelings, to observe feelings. And then, because the feelings are what triggering off our mental states and thoughts, then we can more clearly see, when we have that detachment to the feelings, then we can more clearly see the thoughts and urges connected with those feelings, which cause our mental states. And then that's when you can start really clearly seeing your thoughts and how quickly sensations and feelings and thoughts are coming and going. That's when you can then practice the Dhammanupassana, or the fourth foundation of mindfulness. And by the time you've developed the mindfulness of the body, feelings, and mind states, when you can see them and have some detachment to them, then that's when you can effectively start practicing Dhammanupassana, contemplating the hindrances, and then contemplating, once the hindrances subside, then the mindfulness and concentration has become very strong. And then you can clearly see the five aggregates. This is feeling, this is perception, this is volition, this is consciousness. And so you can see how those five aggregates just arise and pass away. And then you contemplate the six senses. And everything you experience is simply alternating moments of hearing, seeing, tasting, smelling, touching, and thinking that are rising and vanishing very quickly. And this is the beginning of the vipassana form of meditation. And while you're doing that, then you are developing the factors of enlightenment. And it's there where the factors of enlightenment are developed that your mindfulness and concentration really, really become strong, and you attain concentration. And that's how mindfulness actually leads to concentration and jhana, called the vipassana jhana. And then the last of the factors of enlightenment is the equanimity. And then after that, one can realize experience the truth, the transcending of the subject and object or ego delusion, and experience of no self. So, and through that whole process, you're gradually disentangling more and more the inner tangle from the outer tangle. So the sila disentangles the gross objects that bring us suffering, helps us to, and then that helps us to develop the ability to meditate better. And then gradually, as we develop states of concentration, we can even let go of the mental desires. When we attain deeper states of concentration, we disentangle the mind temporarily at a deeper level. But only when we reach the levels of magga and phala do we actually start really untying the karmic knots. And we don't have time to go into all of that. But I just wanted to mention this process and this whole picture that I've been describing, is to try to give you some idea of the inner tangle and the outer tangle and how it's occurred. And then how through the Buddha's wisdom, he understood how you just reverse the process. And seeing how things are anicca, dukkha, and anatta is how you reverse the process of greed, hatred, and delusion. Until finally they become neutral. So, sorry.
It's 8:15.
Okay, so I think I'm going to bring this talk to an end because we still want to have our meditation practice. And but if anybody has any questions, particularly about anything that I've just been talking about, while it's still fresh in your mind, if you want to ask a question if something wasn't clear or so, you could do that. Otherwise, we can wait until after the meditation to see if there's any questions also. So I know we can't read the chat box, but
excuse me, Bhante.
Mm.
In trying to become disentangled, I think I have become entangled rather, because now the mind controls the mind. So in order to control the mind, we have to use the mind to control the mind, isn't it? And in Bhavana too, we are trying to control the mind or relax the mind. So which part of the mind is doing that? Is it mano, chitta, or vijnana? Or is the vijnana the consciousness? Or is it part of the consciousness? Could you please
it's the desire to become free. don't get your mind, don't try to introduce these difficult terms and concepts. It's about the original state of our pure mind wants to become free. So as you meditate and you understand Dhamma, there's a connection to that freedom made, and it wants to learn more. And it's that desire for freedom that causes that forward momentum to practice the Dhamma. So it's true that in order to overcome the negative states, we have to develop the positive states. And that's what right effort is about, to develop wholesome states of mind, which means like sila, samadhi, panya, and generosity, and all those, the paramis and so on. So we are controlling the mind in that sense, but we're doing it to develop wholesome states that will help us to decrease the unwholesome states. Because again, the Buddha's teaching is about how to overcome suffering. So don't worry about happiness right away. Worry about reducing suffering. So follow the teachings of the Dhamma to reduce the suffering by practicing sila, samadhi, and panya. And then as the suffering diminishes, happiness will automatically start arising, because happiness is simply the absence of suffering. And so don't be too much concerned about all these Abhidhamma terms about mano-vijnana and all these different things. Just keep it simple, keep it a little bit more simple. And it's simply that our mind wants to seek freedom, and that's what is helping us to create the right conditions and develop these beautiful or wholesome states of chitta or consciousness to overcome the negative one. So yes, we use the mind to control the mind, but to remove the negative mind. And then it's easy to even give up the wholesome mind, because it's easy to start habits that are bad for us, right?
Yes.
And difficult to give them up.
Yes.
You ever notice that?
Yes.
And it's hard to start habits that are good for us and easy to give them up. So how many years were you saying, yes, I must do yoga, I must do some meditation? It might have taken you many years to finally do it. And then the next time you get sick or somebody dies, it's easy to give up the meditation for a while. So it's very interesting. So don't worry. We use the mind to control the mind, but in a wholesome way. Once the mind has used that to overcome its greed, hatred, and delusion, don't worry about letting go of the wholesome state still, because that will happen on its own once you realize and transcend the ego consciousness.
Okay, thank you, Bhante.
Okay.
One question, Bhante. So this you said this exploration process for disentanglement. So when you experience something, that has to be done in the same time, but when we explore something, it should be after that experience, right? So it is not the present moment anymore. So how do you stay in the present moment and do the exploration? Like one factor of enlightenment is that Dhamma Vijaya, right? So that how to do this exploration or investigation on the mind so that I can disentangle my entangled mind.
Well, first you have to become centered in the body, and that means gaining some samadhi. And then that creates the detachment. So you're able to watch that itch or that painful feeling, but without reacting to it so much. So you're able to contemplate it. This is where Dhamma Vichaya comes in, the investigation of Dhamma, the second factor of enlightenment. You can think about it. Well, what is this pain? What's pain made out of? It's just cells rubbing into each other, producing friction. And it's not really that bad. You can You can, if I just watch it with detachment, you see it changes and it may disappear. And so
that
you contemplate whatever is coming into your mind, you have that space to contemplate. So it does use some thinking, and it might utilize reflecting on the past and future a little bit, but you're doing it for the part of being able to then let go of the mind that's being affected in the present moment. So we can contemplate the past and the future in order to gain an understanding of what is bothering us. And then once you've understood it, the mind will let go of it and will allow you to come back and just ride in the present moment again until something else comes and grabs your mind, some memory or emotion or a pain or a desire, and then you contemplate it according to anicca, dukkha, and anatta, and apply the antidotes. The Buddhas give a lot of instruction on that. So in that time, you might not be right, but you're doing that in the present moment. You're doing that contemplation in the present moment, even though it might use some reflection on the past or future. You're not clinging to it. You're using it to develop wisdom, and therefore, then the mind will let go of that particular disturbance, and then it'll allow you to come back and re-enter the stream of the present moment awareness.
Okay, thank you very much, Bhante. Very clear.
Well, I think maybe we better stop now. Okay, friends. So now we're going to stand up for a couple of minutes and do a short standing and some deep breathing, just to relieve any buildup of discomfort that you might have gotten from sitting on the last hour. And then we're going to sit down, and I'll be giving you a kind of a guided meditation on, sitting and breathing and trying to get centered and grounded in the body. Okay? Or just stand.
Yeah,
it's okay. So just slowly try to come up and stand. We're going to do just a couple of simple stretches. So if you can have some space on your right and left to move your arms. We're going to just try to feel the present moment of the body. Just try to stand straight. Relax your arms at the sides. Gently close your eyes. Just try to feel your eyes resting in the socket. You feel your eyelids stretched over the eyeball. Just mentally tell yourself, standing, standing. Now feel your hands hanging at the sides. Try to feel focus on your fingers. Feel the subtle pulsation in your hands or fingers. The present moment of the body. You just remind yourself of standing, standing. Now feel your feet pressing the floor. Feel the height and weight of the body over the feet. Try to feel some sensations on your feet or toes, where the bottoms of your feet press the floor. Again, just remember standing, standing present moment of the body. And now we're going to do some deep, slow breathing. Again, kind of just focus your attention behind your eyes. Try to feel the outline of the standing body. Again, some deep, slow breathing. It'll take 3 or 4 seconds just to breathe in, expanding your abdomen, rib cage, and upper chest. Hold the air in the lungs 2 or 3 seconds. Allow the oxygen to get into the bloodstream. And slowly breathe out. Try to feel the last bit of air go out of the lung. Just take a few more deep, slow breaths like that, developing this mindfulness. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, standing here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, standing here and now. Breathing in, feeling the whole body. Breathing out, feeling the whole body. Now we're going to do a few simple little stretches, combining them with the deeper breathing. You can open the eyes and watch your screen. As I lead you through this, we do a movement while breathing in, holding that position for 2 or 3 seconds, and returning to the starting point to the opposite direction on the out breath. We repeat each movement 3 times. So the whole time, just keep your mind focused in the body, feeling the sensations. Just keep letting go of your thoughts. Just let your thoughts come and go in the back of the mind. Always keep feeling the body. So on the next in-breath, raise your arms over the head, interlock the fingers, turn the palms up, straighten the arms, stretch your head back, stretch upwards. On the out-breath, turn the palms down, touch the top of your head. And again, in-breath, palms up, straighten the arms, stretch the head back, bend backwards a little bit, feel the sensation. Out breath, touch the top of the head. The third time, hold that upward stretch longer, and bend back a little more, stretch upward. Feel the sensation. Now release the fingers, the out breath, arms back to the sides. Close the eyes. Feel the eyes and the sockets. From that point behind the eyes, try to feel the outline of the standing body. If you can't feel that, feel your feet pressing the floor. Just remind yourself of standing. It's the present moment of the body. Feel where the clothing touches the skin on different places. Feel the increased heartbeat or any other sensation. Letting go of your thought. On the next in breath, push up on the toes while raising the arms over the head. In this way, facing the hands toward each other about 6 inches apart and stretch. Out breath, arms back to the sides. Use the breath to help lift up the body. In breath, push up on the toes. Stretch. Out. Once more, in. Stretch. Out. Just relax. Just close the eyes. Try to feel the increased body sensations and life force vibration. Just remind yourself of standing, standing, standing. Just letting go of your thoughts. One last exercise, the head turning from right to left. On an in-breath, turn your head to the right as far as you can. Try to look over your right shoulder. The out breath, turn the head 180 degrees back to the left. Look over the left shoulder. Concentrate into the neck vertebrae. In breath back to the right. Feel the neck vertebrae loosening up. Out breath left. Once more to each side, in breath to the right. Out breath left. On the in breath, let the head stop in the middle. Keep the eyes closed. Just try to feel all those sensations. Feel the eyes in the sockets. Try to feel the outline of standing body, the head on top, feet pressing the floor, hands at the side, clothing touching the skin. All those different sensations are just the present moment. Remember standing, standing. First stage of meditation, getting the mind grounded, centered, the body, feeling the sensation. Okay, now go ahead and sit back down. Okay, friends, so try to sit comfortable meditation posture. Try to align your spine and the back of the head in a straight line. And keep the chin lifted up level with the floor. Just gently close your eyes. Again, just feel your eyes in the socket. Try to feel the outline of sitting body. Feel the buttocks and feet pressing the floor. Feel the hands touching together. Feel the clothing touching the skin. Try to hold that sort of outline of the body in the mind's eye. And again, begin some deep, slow breathing, like we were doing in the yoga exercise. Take 3 seconds to slowly expand your lungs and chest. Hold the air in for 2 seconds. Slowly breathe out. Just develop this mindfulness of the breathing. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, feeling the whole body. Breathing out, feeling the whole body. And we're going to try to count our breaths from 1 to 10 without the mind getting lost. I'll do the counting for you. Just try to follow the counting with your own breathing. With the next expanding in breath, mentally count to 1. Hold the air in 1 second. Contracting out breath, also count to 1. Feel the last bit of air go out. Next in breath, 2. Out breath, 2. In 3. Out 3. In 4. Out 4. In 5. Out 5. In 6. Out 6. In 7. 7, in 8, out 8, in 9, out 9, in 10, out 10, now discontinue the counting. Let the breathing return to its uncontrolled, shorter, irregular rhythm. You continue to feel it. Your attention focused in the middle of the body. Feel the subtler expanding and contracting movement. Try to notice where the clothing rubs against the skin of the stomach, rib cage, or chest. Expands and contracts. Just remember this present moment in sitting, out sitting, in sitting, out sitting. Just remember that much. It's not much to remember. In sitting, out sitting, over and over and over again. Connection to continuous present moment, this breathing body. Try to get the feeling of being a scientist sitting in the laboratory, looking down through a microscope. This body is the laboratory for the meditative. Focused awareness is the microscope. Peering down and notice the expanding and contracting sensation. In sitting. Out sitting. And turn up the power of the mental microscope. And notice the 4 phases of each breath cycle. All the sensations of the expanding in-breath, the brief pause, sensations of the contracting out-breath, the brief pause. So many little sensations you could notice. expanding of the abdomen, rib cage, or chest, so many little sensations. Present moment sensation. In sitting. Out, sitting. Breath by breath, moment by moment. Letting your thoughts come and go in the back of the mind. Breathing body, front of the awareness. Be alert for thoughts sneaking up in the mind, steal your attention away. Get caught up in thoughts, recognize it as thinking. Gently let go of the thought. Come back in, sitting. Out, sitting. There's too many thoughts. You can try counting your breaths from 1 to 10 again by yourself. Stay focused. Time to time, come back and do some deep, slow breathing. Help stay more connected to the body. Keep turning up the power of the mental microscope. Notice more and subtler sensation. Coming and going in and around, breathing, body. Noticing subtler thoughts as they're moving through the mind. Like you can also just contemplate inner tangle and the outer tangle, observing it happening right in your experience. Mind reacting to unpleasant sensation. There's thoughts about the external world. Sounds distract the attention. Note that as hearing, just sound vibration. think about the sound that's thinking. Let go both the sound and the think. Back to in, sitting, out, sitting. Present moment awareness. Breathing in, sitting. Breathing out, sitting. So many sensations come and go. Pleasure or pain come and go. Sounds come and go. Thoughts or emotions come and go. Thoughts of I, me, or mine come and go. These are all just a continuous flow of impermanence of the body, mind, and world, 5 aggregate. In the present moment awareness. This breathing body. We lose that connection to the present moment, the breathing body. The mind gets easily carried away, dragged under the waves of mental suffering. This breathing body, the present moment, is our lifeline, the life preserver, the natural present moment awareness. It's always there, just beneath your nose. Parallel world, the now. Parallel vibration, the here and now. The end of suffering. Dukkha pata chani dukkha bhaya pata chani bhaya Soka pata jani soka hontu sabe pipani. May the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. In this way may all beings live with mindfulness and wisdom. And thus spoke the Buddha. Join in chanting the word sadhu 3 times slowly, though we do chanting on a long out breath to feel that vibration on the out breath. Take a deep breath. Sa Sa Sa
Most Venerable Bhante Yoga Rahula and dear Venerable monks, dear friends in Dhamma, we are very happy to be a part of this wonderful Dhamma session with Bhante Yoga Rahula today, because as you witness, it's full of Dhamma in many ways. When Bhante Rahula conducted meditation or Dhamma talk, all of these sessions allow many people to embrace the Dhamma from different approaches. At the same time, we know the fact that he has been a monk for many decades now, and the practice he has been sharing with us is twofold. One is the Dhamma he experienced, and the second one is Dhamma he learned from the Tripitaka, so that whatever he said has been experimented, experienced into a greater extent, so that it is beneficial for us in many ways. While he was delivering them, I took some notes in my phone so that I can read them later on. And one of the interesting thing he said is the way we should keep our mind in the present moment. Many of us know about the present moment and keeping our mind in the present moment, but the way the Bhante Rahula explained it is remarkable. If we are able to keep our attention in the present moment, according to his sermon, we are not in the past or future with anything like comparison and memories, and so that is very clear. And I really appreciate the way he presented it, and it's like an ambrosia of Dhamma. The other thing I I really liked is the way he defined the meditation. Actually, it is the first time I was led by Bhante Rahul to think about in such a way. Medi, the very word medi is representing medicine and the media and the middle path. So by taking that very important definition, he was trying to bring the idea that the mindfulness training is in the middle of everything. You are not in looking for happiness and also no suffering, but you are treading on middle path to see the truth. I think that is also interesting point as I picked up from his sermon. And the other thing is the way he wrote up the practice of foundation of mindfulness. I think they are very profound, very practical, and I really indebted to Bhante Rahul for explaining these salient features of the Dhamma, combining his experience and also the theory of those important elements in the Buddha's teaching. I know that many of you want to say thank you so much to Bhante Rahul, but it's not a good time for doing that because it's close to 9:10 p.m. now. We should give some rest to Bhante Rahul. Anyway, you know who he is. You can reach him through email. And if he has free time, he would definitely answer your Dhamma questions, not through other things. He is residing at the Panyasya Meditation Center in Washington, close to Washington. So you can reach him through his blog also. So Bhante, thank you very much for giving this opportunity for us. And the session will be of course in the YouTube and also other places that we always refer to as the temple. And this session is sponsored by Lakshman Dice and Kanti Dice along with Manish and Dinu. They were fortunate to give the dana for Bhante Rahul today, so that they sponsored this evening session too, for the sake of merit and also skillfulness they want to develop. And we as monks of the Hilda Javaradhana may bless them for what they did today, and may they be well, happy and peaceful. Whatever they had in mind in sponsoring this special session would be coming true soon, and may they be enlightened by the power of these merits. And now I just want to thank Bhante Rahul for accepting our invitation to share us Dhamma in this program. As I said, it's very beneficial for us in many ways. I think many of those participants, learn a new Dhamma, and if not, they encourage themselves to practice all kinds of Dhamma elements in the Buddha's teaching with your effort, Bhante, so that we really thank you and offer you our meritorious thought for your well-being and happiness. And we wish you a safe return back to the monastery and stay healthy. May you complete your training as you wish and complete your full enlightenment in this very life. With that wholesome thought in mind, let's say sadhu, 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 sadhu. We thank.
I want to say one more thing.
Yeah.
I just want to rephrase what he said earlier at the beginning, as saying that mindfulness a day keeps dukkha away. So that's a takeoff on the apple a day keeps the doctor away. Mindfulness a day keeps dukkha away. That means practicing the M&Ms, pausing every hour for a minute, come back to the present moment, take a deep, slow breath, let go of the past and the future, just feel the present moment for 30 seconds or 1 minute.
Thank you, Bhante. I think I missed the word day in my statement. Anyway, Thank you, Bhante, for correcting us, giving us more inspiration for us to practice the Dharma as you explained. So I just also want to thank Bhante Sunita and Bhante Sumanratana for their participation. And if Bhante Rahul were not here, these monks conduct this Wednesday program in Sinhala with selected discourses from the Nikaya. So I thank them and bless them for their well-being and happiness. And we have Dhamma friends from different places in Ottawa, Toronto. I do not know whether we have friends joined today from the US. Anyway, wherever you are blessed by this session, and Bhante Rahul is present online. And I wish you good health. I want you to encourage to participate in any Dhamma session that feed you with the Buddha's teaching, so that you may be able to make your way to Nirvana soon. So those who join here at the temple and also through Zoom and YouTube and also live stream, you are considered with the blessings of the Noble Triple Gem and in compassion in mind, and may your relatives also be well, happy and peaceful. Once again, I thank Lakshman Dias and Kant Dias, Manisha and Dinu. May they be well, happy and peaceful for what they did today with Venerable Rahula and in this session. Finally, I just want to transfer merits to departed relatives. I start with Bhante Rahula's parent. The mother lived over 95, I guess.
102.
102. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So she was so happy about Bhante Rahula, and she was well taken care of by Bhante Rahul and his brother. And we, of course, never saw her, but we had so much respect for her because of Bhante Rahula's extraordinary character in us. So today, by the power of merits, we develop in our mind. We transfer merits to her for her short journey in Sansara, and his father also, and whoever passed away in the name of Bhante Rahula, may they all attain Nirvana. And we, of course, transfer merits to your departed relatives, and the monks who passed away, may they also receive merits from us. May they attain Nirvana by the power of these merits. With this wholesome thought in mind, we are going to recite a Pali stanza that brings the meaning that we share these good thoughts in our mind and they receive and become happy. Idang me ñāti nang hotu sukita huntu ñātayo. Idang me ñāti nang hotu sukita huntu ñātayo. Idang me ñāti nang hotu sukita huntu ñātayo. Let's share the merits with divine beings and other spiritual beings. May they also become happy and in return protect all these venerable monks and devotees, because they are striving to attain Nirvana. And may these merits be with divine beings for their well-being and happiness and attaining Nirvana too. With this wholesome thought in mind, we are reciting stanzas to transfer merits to them as well. Ettavata ca ammehi sampatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavata ca ammehi sampatang punya sampadang sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavata ca ammehi sampatang punya sampadang sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Before we recite in the concluding stanza to end today's session, I just want to thank you once again. We are sorry if you could not ask questions as you wish through these online medias. Due to uh, uh, the situation we have, we cannot allow many people to come with questions and get clarification. But anyhow, if you listen to the Dhamma carefully and meditated well with Bhante Rahula's instruction, I think you find the Dhamma to keep the dukkha away from you, as Bhante Rahula mentioned. So that is what we are all, that is what we expect from this kind of Dhamma session. So thanking everyone and wishing you well-being and happiness, and also the blessings of the Noble Triple Gem. We are going to recite the concluding stanza. By the power of the Kusala we develop, and also merits Vaishya, may we all be well, happy and peaceful. May we all attain Nirvana in this very life. With this wholesome thought in mind, monks are going to recite the concluding stanza to end today's session, and you may receive the blessings. Abhivadana silissa niccang vaddapachayino Chattaro dhamma vaddanti ayuvanno sukhang balang ayurarogya sampatti sagga sampatti mevacha ato nibbana sampatti iminate samijjatu. Very much when well happy.
Sukhi dukkha yoga well, happy and peaceful, may all your hopes and wishes succeed, may you attain freedom, suffering.